Welcome everyone. We are Museumand, the National Caribbean Heritage Museum. My name is Linda Louise Burrell. I'm the Creative Director.
And I'm Catherine Ross, the Founder Director.
We are the only Caribbean Heritage Museum in the UK, and we are unique as we have no walls, we have no building. This actually allows us to take the museum experience out to you, the people, wherever you are, be that in church halls, schools, shopping centres, to takeaway restaurants, from the V&A Museum to the National Trust properties. We work with local grassroots companies and groups, as well as advising national organisations and institutions all about Caribbean heritage. We curate exhibitions, but we also do fun things like this today and engaging with people. So enjoy.
So for the next 30 minutes, let's play Mass.
It sounds a whole lot more interesting than just talking about mass carnival characters.
There's no walking up though.
Or whining.
Not even a little jamming, but there's a whole lot of storytelling.
Does this begin once upon a time?
No, more of a some long time ago. Well, 400 years ago, actually.
Yeah.
Well, the Europeans who moved into the Caribbean did so to either make money on the backs of those they enslaved or to hide from some things that they'd done in their own country. But they took with them a lot of customs and traditions, and one of them was religion, Christianity. One group of these Europeans was the French, and one of the islands they moved into was Trinidad. Yeah, Trinidad was originally called the land of the hummingbird. But it soon became the place where the French introduced the masquerade, a popular celebration in the period before Lent. There was a lot of feasting, partying, and merrymaking, European style. People dressed up to be something they weren't, courtiers, people they secretly admired but wouldn't speak to for the rest of the year, like the enslaved. But what they introduced to the enslaved is something Caribbeans, the descendants of those noble people, still enjoy, and something the rest of the world has embraced eagerly. Mass! Carnival!
So the French were really party animals then?
Yes, but selfish too. They didn't let their plantation workers join in and have a piece of the action. Their behaviour towards those who worked for them was hardly Christian. Remember, this was supposed to be a Christian-related event.
Huh?
Well, after full emancipation...
In 1838?
Yeah, the freed Africans took to the streets. In towns, in villages, come Lent, they took the European Mass and they made it their own.
What are you saying? What do you mean?
Well, Mass became exuberant, wildly so. We like a good time.
As we say in the Caribbean, we let go.
That's exactly what I'm saying. The dancing was not their quadrille, a stately dance with formal steps and moves, nor was it a jig, sort of hopping from one leg to another. What we did totally mocked their formal and stately moves. Our mass dances were lively, more like an African war dance, because, after all, our free paper had come.
Oh.
Well, now our lives were our own, our bodies were our own. We owed them nothing, so we put on a display, one that shocked them, and made them retreat behind the walls of their big houses, back to their large gardens, and we took back the streets, and we put on a display. We put on a piece of dancing that can only be described as, because of its pace, and the body contortions, and the pure exuberance, lewd or vulgar. They were horrified. I joke you not. The celebration was one of great times and long days. But by the 1860s, things had got really out of hand because in Port of Spain, Trinidad, although people were free, most of them had no work and hardly any means of making a living. So unemployment was rife. Inevitably, slums developed. And the people who lived there may not have had much, but they weren't going to be done out of a party. No, Mass was for everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, at Mass, new migrants to the area, the stick fighters and the prostitutes parted with the best of them. And Mass became a Jamet Mass, a right free-for-all. The revellers introduced new characters to the Mass, devils, demons and imps. But not only that, people took the opportunities to settle rivalries and old scores.
What? No.
The immoral and the violence had escalated so much that the authorities had to step in.
What?
Yeah, they banned the use of drums and sticks and torches.
Were they part of the Carnival reenactment?
Yeah, Europeans love this as part of the Mass celebrations. But as I said, the authorities introduced a ban on wearing masks and they limited the number of Mass days to 2.
What?
Well, you know what happens when our people are cornered. We broke where we introduced new characters and we increased our parodies of their customs and their costumes.
What happened then?
Well, more mayhem. Until the merchants in the port of Spain got involved. They offered prizes for the best Mass costumes and they sponsored bands.
Did they solve the problem?
Well, yes, but it took a whole century before the upper and middle classes rejoined the Mass on the streets.
Wow.
And when they did, they decorated lorries that kept them safely above the crowds. But then it was only after the Second World War when they joined the locals on the streets again.
It looks like then the war was a catalyst for social change now.
And with it, some major changes to the future of Mass. Because up till then, the Mass had people dressing up as some very important characters.
It's interesting that you say important. Why do you say that?
Well, because these Mass characters weren't just an opportunity to dress up and be rioters. No, the Mass characters played an important part in the psyche of the freed Africans. The Mass characters made statements, they started conversations, and they made people think.
Are you saying that Mass is a sort of energetic street theatre, colourful and noisy?
Yes, definitely that. But Mass is also a serious business. People play, people party, but it's a serious business on the whole. So serious that I think Caribbeans here in the UK, and especially those of Caribbean descent, need to know that Mass Carnival is not just a jump up, not just food and drink, not just winding up. It's a tradition that helped our community remember its past in the Caribbean, its heritage back in Africa, and the 70 years or so we've made the UK our home.
I suppose Marcus Garvey was right then. People need to know their past. It shapes their present and determines their future.
Yep, it sure does. As I say, Mass characters make a statement in their dress about their past. And one of the early Mass characters is the African masquerade. Its presence reminds us of where we came from, what our roots are. And in the real old days, he was portrayed as an uncivilized savage, holding a spear, you know, the sort of stereotype that made Europeans feel safe and vindicated. Well, thank goodness this masquerade is rarely seen. Instead, when Africa is shown, it presents instead African beauty and our true selves, not their stereotype. Another one of the characters was the Negro Jardin. He's still known by his French name, but it has become creolized or patronized over the years. And depending what island you're from, you're either saying him as the nigger or the nègre. But whoever you describe him as, he is a field slave. And he was a regular in the European Mass because Europeans love to play him.
No surprise that?
Yeah, people want to be black. They envy our strength, our resilience, our creativity. They appropriate what's ours, but they can't be us. The Negro Jardin was, after all, far removed from what the sort of people they would normally socialise with. And I think playing the Negro Jardin was for many a subversive act. It was thrilling, exciting, different to the elaborate characters Europeans would have played in their ballrooms. But after emancipation, the freed Africans adopted the Negro Jardin character, and they'd use him to mock their past and invert their reality. And playing this mask character gave Black people the opportunity to hold the whip that had been used against them, to blow the horns and the whistles that had been used to keep them in line. Even now, in modern mass, players of this character sing songs of defiance as they parade on the streets with the torches, remembering and reminding of those terrible nights when their ancestors had to move through cane fields against their will, putting out cane fires to keep slave masters rich. That's what the candomblé was all about. In some carnivals, the Negro Jardin has morphed into the stick fighters and the batoniers. But in the village mass, he remains and reminds of how our people, Caribbeans, Black people, can be defiant. The Dame Lorraine character, well, she's another of the old mass characters and is one of pure parody. The character mimics and mocks the wife, the women, the European ladies of the 17th and 18th century. Women known for their airs and graces as one who she must be obeyed, but she had little to offer otherwise. She is represented in the masquerade as somebody who is obese with a large behind and oversized breasts. But the character I like most is the Mokajumbi.
Really? What's that one?
Well, it's because one of those I remember from my childhood in St. Kitts. I was so small and he was so tall. He walked with a funny gait, which always fascinated but worried me. But then I was only 5.
Oh, I see.
I loved his bright costumes, lots of coloured ribbons, and that tall hat. How on earth did he manage to keep it on his head while he performed all sorts of antics? I'll never know. I was 60 before I realised that that tall man could be considered a colourful message, that all mass characters were in their dress and in their antics, passing on a message to revellers. The Mokajumbis were telling me with his 2-word name that he was named after the West African god Orisha, the god of fate and retribution, hence his name, Moka. And his second name was Jumbi, meaning ghost or spirit. So the Mokajumbi message is, because I am taller than ordinary men, I can see far, I can see into the future, and as a result, because I am a Jumbi, my spiritual powers will be used to protect you and your village, because I can see any approaching danger. For me, please excuse my personal indulgence, but the most powerful thing about this character was what he was reported to have said way back in the old days when he was asked who he was. And he said, I have been walking all the way across the Atlantic Ocean from the west coast of Africa, laden with money and many centuries of experiences. And in spite of all the inhuman attacks and encounters, yet I'm still walking tall, tall, tall.
So mass is more than a party. It's a history lesson. The African?
Yeah, the African character. He tells me that I have a rich history, heritage, and culture.
Negro Jardin?
That I must remain defiant and don't accept the nonsense and stuff people may put in my way.
The Mokajumbi?
That despite what life throws at me, I should walk tall as my ancestors did. I have their example to copy. Well, I know about 22 traditional mass characters, but it's only in 2020 that I discovered the baby doll. And perhaps this is the character that speaks to me most, for she is, as I am, a mother, a woman who is strong and independent, a woman who is confident and doesn't give up. Her situation was different to mine, though, because she didn't have male support in her life. She was a single mother.
Wow, that is a revelation.
Well, you see, the baby doll for me represents so much about Caribbean history. Those years during slavery when plantation owners ripped the families of the enslaved apart, taking the men away to work on other plantations or to be sold. And it also tells me of the many instances where women would be subjected to rape, sexual abuse, etc. Nevertheless, despite all of that, she raised her children without there being a permanent male in the household, despite working at 2 or more jobs at any one time. She succeeded. Her children thrived. The baby doll represents modern woman. She wants it all. She expects the man or the other parent in the 21st century to do their duty. She is a feminist, and her message is, go girl, yes, you can. But the baby doll makes me uncomfortable too, because she reminds me that some women still want to be treated like a baby doll. So she primps and preens. She doesn't want to grow up and take control of her own life, to be all she can be. And through the baby doll, I see the social history and the social present. Today, where women, against their will, have to experience teenage pregnancy, rape, sexual abuse, and being sex workers.
Isn't there a group of mass players known as the Belmont dolls? They play the baby dolls really well, don't they?
Yes, and their message is women should be in control of their bodies, their sexuality, that women should have a voice and be encouraged to use it.
It's a heavy message. It's an important message. That's a very important history. You know, women were subjected by abuse by the sailors in the 17th century, the plantation owners and the planters in the 17th century, and the GIs in the 20th century.
Yes.
Doesn't the baby doll have a phrase or something that she says during the mass march?
Yes, it's something like, Mister, look, your child. She uses it to embarrass revelers, to give her money to go away, but it serves another purpose also. Her plea to any man in the crowd reminds reluctant parents that they have a financial and caring duty to look after their child. To get the other parent, usually a man, that they should shoulder their parental responsibilities.
What our conversations really ran home to me is that mass is a highly spirited street celebration of energy and revelry. But it has a purpose, it tells a story of society, and the stories will benefit all people. Colourful stories and a whole host of characters.
Yes, I suppose they can be classified as animal characters, sinister characters, historical characters, African characters, and parodies.
So the animal characters.
Well, that includes things like the bull, the cowband, the dragon, and the bat.
Sinister characters?
The devils, the midnight robbers.
What historical characters?
Well, they're the sailors and the Indians, and of course, the baby dolls.
African characters.
My favourite, the Mockajumbies.
And the parodies?
Well, that includes things like the Pierrot Grenade, the Negre Jardin, and of course, the Dame Lorraine.
Ah, it's almost as if you're saying that mass is a combination of theatrical performance and cultural ritual. The masqueraders almost have to adopt the characters and persona and their history, especially if they want the revellers to believe their stories, to remember and understand what masqueraders are trying to say. Remember the speeches, the dances, everything really.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. Good masqueraders don't just play mass, they are mass. And for some of them, that's almost for 363 days a year, because they have to make the costume, they have to practice the dance, they have to practice the speeches.
Oh.
Can I quickly tell you about two other traditional characters? Because their presence in the Mass, in Carnival, are strong references to Caribbean history. So, for instance, a group known as the Indians. There are several types of Indians in a Mass, but the one I'm particularly drawn to are the Red Indians, because they represent the Amerindians, who are the original inhabitants of many Caribbean islands, the Tairo, the Arawak, and the Carib. But like the Indian characters, there are many types of devils you will find in Mass. But the one that I have to admit makes me hurt inside because of who he is meant to represent. His name is a Jab Molassie. He is supposed to be the ghost of a slave who fell into a vat of molasses in a sugar factory. And the ghost of this slave is seeking retribution for the crimes done to him and others like him, as he was forced to make sugar to make money for Europeans.
Oh, I really enjoyed learning about traditional characters in Mass, but I also think, or do you think as well, it's becoming less visible?
Yes, I'm afraid I have to say yes to that, because what I've been describing is old Mass, traditional Mass.
Oh.
But I have to say that something called pretty Mass is definitely in the ascendancy.
Is that more contemporary then?
Yeah, it's a more commercial sort of event, which some people say is characterised by costumes that are made of beads and feathers and sequins, by revellers who are in the main skimpily clad, who, although are very colourful and beautiful, lack a real connection to Caribbean history. So remember, original Mass, now called All Mass, started in the days of slavery, and once the free Africans could join in, they used whatever material they could find to hand. Caribbeans have always been resourceful. They've always been creative. So they used what was readily available to create their costumes, and that included plantain and banana leaves, and sacking, and rice and flour bags, and the cast-off of the rich.
I think you said that the Mass characters traditionally speak to the revellers.
Yes, some of them have some great speeches, and one of them is the Midnight Robber. His main words are stand and deliver. Classic old-style robber talk, very theatrical and swaggering as he points a fake gun at you. He's really using the opportunity to make social and political commentary on current issues facing the island. The robber talk is really an expression of self-affirmation and self-assertion. The baby doll talk I've already mentioned, but it's a reminder that all parents should take responsibility for their children's welfare. Well, the bookman, another character, is one of the many devils parading in the Mass, but he is distinctive because he carries a very large, oversized book in which is written the names of those who will be condemned to damnation when the time comes. The Piero grenade is a real show-off. Well, not only does he give long speeches, which shows his knowledge of people like Milton and Shakespeare, but he boasts he can spell any word in the dictionary and invites revellers to test him out. But watch out, because if he asks you to spell and you can't, it's pure shame. The Muckajumbis, well, his inspirational words have already been mentioned, but in summary, he reminds everyone to walk tall.
This is one message I always remember.
Every year, fewer people remember the complex rituals and the traditions that gave Mass its life and its spirit. So it's left me asking this question. Has the pretty Mass revolution, with its increasing commercialization of Carnival, left the traditional characters of Mass stranded?
That's a really big question. What our little chat has really made me think is about the importance of encouraging our children to play Mass, traditional Mass, to remember their history, and make sure that our children learn this and all the aspects of our culture.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's important for children, but I think anyone of Caribbean descent needs to know more about this aspect of their culture.
Mm.
Because mass speaks, and we should all be able to listen.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for listening. So that's the end of our talk today, but we'd like to invite anybody to ask any further questions, and we can answer any questions that you'd like. So the difference between traditional carnival characters and contemporary carnival.
Yeah, this the traditional, as I said, some of the stories, the talk, and the dress tells us about our history, and we need to know that they're not just funny characters that parade about and do antics and make you laugh. There's something behind each of those. And as I said, some people practice for 363 days, ready for their 2-day mass, you know, to get it right, to get the message, to get the outfits looking good. And they're the ones who's telling the stories. I think the more contemporary mass is just fun things. It's still sometimes on a theme, but they don't play mass. They just perform, if you get what I mean. It's different. I don't think they give the message. You look and you say, wow, I wish I could wear something like that. Either because the costume, the headdress or something is really big and elaborate and stuff, or, you know, wish I had the figure for that, you know, as they're skimpily clad. But when you see some of the old ones, you know, and if you talk to them or make it look as if you want to talk to them, they'll come and tell you some of the stories that why they're there in the mass.
Interesting if we can get to the point where we can mix the two a bit more. So, you know, so if someone's more into the pretty new mass, contemporary mass, we could, you know, merge some way.
Yeah, we've got to keep it going, guys. We've got to keep it going.
When did we start our organisation?
We started, the Caribbean Museum in 2015. So we're still quite a baby in terms of places like the V&A and so on.
Quite a lot. The good thing about that, or the interesting thing, we are mother and daughter. That's why we're actually isolating together. But Mum's been collecting Caribbean history for as long as I can remember.
Yeah, lots of artifacts that tell our story in different ways. Anything from books and clothes to ornaments for the home and to even some of brickwork that's relevant to our lives. Yeah.
We do need more carnival costumes. Yeah, that's one thing
that we're short of is carnival costumes. So anybody, before you break it down, do let us know. We'd be delighted to have one. We haven't actually done an exhibition yet on carnival. So,
and also, even if you don't want to, or we can't take the costumes from you, even photographs. You know, being a part of a museum is that we need documentation. So all the, you know, photographs while you're making your costumes, the finished costumes, all those sorts of things. It'd be good if we could archive them and keep them for future generations.
Right.
So someone's asking more about the differences between traditional carnival characters and how they differ. So you've got any information for us on that?
I've got a list of traditional carnival characters, but what they are, as I say, it's about our history. So the sailors talk about the different people, you know, the ship, how it got to where we are, and then the other ships that take the stuff to the States, you know, the sugar and all of that. So we've got those. We've got the devils, the evil people that do evil things to us. And then we've got, as I say, the Dame Lorraine is one of we're mimicking and making fun of our European, of the people who were the European masters and so on. Do you... Yeah, and what I like as well is that the characters use each year to explain what is happening in our societies. They're almost like the newspaper of the day. In their speeches and whatever, they're telling you the issues that are important.
It's like folk music or calypsos.
Yeah, calypsos do the same thing as well. Yeah, the singing newspapers. Can traditional characters be seen at Notting Hill? There are so many to choose from, and I have to talk a little bit about myself. I'm from St Kitts, and so I traditionally go to the carnivals where there are a lot of kittitians, so I can catch up on family gossip, catch up on island gossip, and so on. So I haven't been to Notting Hill for some years. I tend to go to Leeds Carnival.
I know they were trying to get us to do something down there.
Yes, that's right. We've been asked to do something this year, and next year. It's all going to happen next year.
Well, I don't know for definite if they do traditional mass. Not sure, but that's something we could really look into and talk to Roz about.
Yeah, we're certainly going to have more workshops and things in the future. And we do go around the country. So, a lot of people say they want to come to see us. I think if you get on our list, we'll be able to tell you when we're somewhere nearer you as well.
We travel to about 3 to 4 different cities every week pre-COVID. And that's actually true. It's a bit ridiculous how much we travel.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can let you know when we're doing something that's either in your city or close to where you are. And we do have a collection, so we have lots of artifacts on all different parts of Caribbean culture. But doesn't mean we don't need more, because as soon as we put something into an exhibition, then that stays with that exhibition, we can't use it for something else. So we're continually asking people for donations.
Yeah, and I don't know who I'm speaking to, who the audience is at the moment, but anything from schools and colleges and whatever. We do work with some of the big boys, we work with the V&A and so on, but we do small organisations as well. We're very pleased about our culture, and we just want to keep talking about it and sharing it with other people. So do let us know if you're interested in us doing something for you.
We're working a lot with the Whitworth in Manchester at the moment. We did something before COVID, and we're doing things after COVID. And what we try and do is go up to Manchester and work with local groups. We bring them into the museum and work with us. So it's not that we just come here and show. We try and get people involved, because we're stronger as a culture together, not divided. So we always try and work with people.
Yeah, what the traditional characters in mass are telling us, guys, we've got a great history. We've got to where we are, but we mustn't forget where we've come from. And to be honest, until that message hit me, I was just going there for the boys, and I was going there to dress up and for the food and so on. But now I know there's more to it. I am so pleased. Yeah.
We're great people. We just need to shout about it. Make sure everybody else knows it as great as we are.
Exactly that.
Any more questions? Last 5 minutes? Catherine, fill in for us. You like to chat.
Right. Okay. So what I just need to say again, masquerade is about wearing masks. And that's about hiding who you are, as well, because sometimes as well, traditionally, people had to hide. If you were going to present a strong message and criticize your government or something, it was good for you to hide something. So there is that. Not saying that's something to do with COVID. Right, and then there's a mimicry, making fun and just having a good time. Goodness, we are party animals. We wrote the book on that. And then some of the motifs that you see on some of the costumes. So it's not just the main costume, but the things that's added to it, the symbolic, and tell you more. I hope to be at these 2 carnivals next year, and I hope some of you will get in touch with us as a museum, and we'll let you know where we are, and then we can meet up face to face. COVID's robbed us this year, but we're ready. Don't forget, we're a resourceful people, a creative people. See you next year.
Thanks, everybody.